It's the 18th of December. Welcome back to Cinema Cycle Land. It was dark when I woke up this morning, and it's going to be dark when I get done watching this movie because it's 4 a.m. in the morning and it's 27 degrees outside. So much for today's weather report. Random Media Generator has given me a Laserdisc, a classic. Oh, yeah. The Tender Trap. Is that what it is? Yeah, The Tender Trap. Very young Frank Sinatra and Debbie Reynolds. Can you say romantic comedy from the 1950s? I hope you can, because that's what you're going to see today. Excuse me. So we're zipping into this 1950s romantic comedy musical. A couple things spring to mind. Obviously, this is a Frank Sinatra vehicle. Frank Sinatra at his height of his power with regard to his singing and his acting ability. Evidently, this is what's interesting about this whole project. You get to see this progression, where originally you had like Dick Powell, and then you went to Clark Gable, and you have the leading man in Hollywood. I guess right now it's George Clooney or Brad Pitt or somebody. But here you have Frank Sinatra, who is epitomizing the male suave of the age, and this is obviously a stage play that was done on Broadway. They moved over to theater, which was pretty common back in the 1950s. Test it out on Broadway. If it works, make a movie out of it and send it all over the country. But first 20 minutes or so of this film, we're in Joe's apartment, which is supposed to be in Manhattan, and this progression of people that come in, and so it still has a stage play feel where you're setting up all the characters. And the thing that you get the most out of this is this Mad Men concept, where you have the affluent white guys, no ethnic people in this movie. You have the affluent white guys, and they're sitting around drinking cocktails in any drop of a hat, and it's all about this, prim and proper. This is so and so. I'm going to do this. This is how I do this, and it's endearing for the day, but by modern standards, it's just totally unreal and surreal. I mean, people don't act this way. They probably really didn't act this way back in the 50s, but this is the persona that Hollywood was pushing out back then. This is cool. This is how white people act. This is the silly situations that white people get themselves into. And interesting period piece, but the more you watch it, the more you move into the future, the more this becomes like fantasy as it goes back and recedes into history. So, just a bit sexist, okay? The women here are somewhat window dressing. There is the one sassy woman, which is the foil for Frank. But when Frank and Debbie Reynolds first meet, she's auditioning for a play, and they're saying, well, what do you want to act in? What do you want to do with your future? And her first response is very chipper. Oh, I want to get married. Because that, back in the 1950s, is the only thing that women were supposed to do. Get married and have kids. Everything else is just waiting. So there's an interesting counterpoint to this movie where it's one of the few movies I've seen from Hollywood, especially in this era, where they actually show people watching television. Now, mind you, they're great big wooden sets that are in black and white, but it was very uncommon back then to have television shown in a movie because they were literally competing rivals. It's like having a Buick appear in a Volkswagen commercial. It's not something that you did very often. But they do it here, which is kind of interesting. The other thing I find interesting about this film is that having a real hard time identifying with the characters. I know this is suave and cool and sophisticated back in 1955 when this movie was made, but I'm watching Debbie Reynolds' character here, who's this sweet little vivacious girl, and she reminds me so much of all the relationships I had when I was younger and why I absolutely cannot stand young women. Because even today, they have this kind of mindset, call it raised by Disney, where their mission is to find a man and get certain things. They have expectations of marriage and child rearing and houses and jobs and friends. And then most of the rest of their life is being chipped away at those expectations. And that's what you have here, where Debbie Reynolds is just this young girl on a mission to get married, then get pregnant. You got to go in that order. And it's just, you know, and Frank Sinatra is just like this dumb playboy who's just like, you know, I'm so suave, I'm so cool, women just fall all over me. And so that's where the tension is, where he obviously just wants to fool around, and she wants home and hearth. And never a good mixture. Speaking of which, they drink in every single scene here. Martinis are the drink of choice. So, while Debbie Reynolds is obviously the female lead in this show, the woman that I would identify with is Celeste Holm, which is who plays Sylvia in the show. Sophisticated, smart, sassy, knows what she wants, and finds most men just kind of stupid, and she plays them. Modern girl. You know, one of the things I like best about this film is a technical aspect, which is the backdrop off the balcony of Charlie's apartment. He has an apartment in New York City. Mind you, this is all filmed at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in LA, so this isn't filmed in New York. But most of the action takes place in this rather lavish Don Draper apartment that he has in Manhattan. And he has a balcony with this New York skyline. And in every scene it changes with the lighting, so sometimes it's at dusk, sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's early morning. And the buildings have lights on them that blink and stuff, and it's like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool to have that panorama of New York outside the window. The credits be rolling. Let's see what the counterpoint is from Halliwell's Film Guide from 1995. And we have The Tender Trap. A smart New York agent has a way with women which annoys his friend. But Casanova gets his comeuppance when he sets his sights on an apparently naive young actress. A thin comedy with agreeable moments, not helped by the widescreen. Yeah.